This is Shuki.
Today, well, I suppose we've been absent for a while. We don't really have an excuse for this other than, I suppose,
Being
life
lazy.
gets in between. It's not even busyness. I mean, the art market is in a recession, so that would clearly be a lie. But be that as it may, I'm glad we're doing another session. Today we will be talking about David Hockney, who, of course, as most of you will know, currently has a retrospective at the Louis Vuitton Foundation. It's an exhibition curated by Norman Rosenthal, and I believe it's his largest exhibition to date. Could that be right? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, we will be talking about Hockney at large today, but I thought it would be nice to start with what you thought of the exhibition, because we went earlier in May, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, I should say I think the Louis Vuitton Foundation, it's not really a great venue for exhibitions because it kind of usually it splits like the visitor experience. You have a ground floor and then you go up a long elevator and then you have another space. So I'm really not terribly fond of that space. I think it was an interesting show just for the sheer opportunity of seeing so many different works.
I mean, it's managed to change your opinion about his iPad works, right?
Well, yeah, I think one of the interesting... I mean, I've never really seen his iPad works at any great depth, and perhaps there was always a certain kind of snobbish prejudice I had toward them because, you can print many of them. They're in a way a multiple. They're in fact more of a multiple than an etching or silkscreen print, because with an etching or silkscreen print, there's a sense in which every edition is slightly different because it's still a physical process. I mean, particularly with etchings also because the plate is worn through time. But with these digital works, you can just, do them ad infinitum in principle, even if there might be limitations on the amount of editions. But what I thought was that I felt the exhibition was able to convey very successfully how his later work, his iPad drawings, also his digital screen works, how they're really very much connected to his oeuvre of the 1970s, in that really the mark making you achieve on the iPad is very much, I think, a mark making he was already going for in the 1970s, to the extent that one might say that technology has finally been able to keep up with him and do what he wants to achieve artistically.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point that I think we'll also come back to later on. But I just want to say one more thing about the exhibition. I mean, I brought some clients also to the show, and I mean, they've also changed their mind about the iPad drawings. I think it's really because I think the show has really put a lot of emphasis on the later works, and not only included like printouts of the iPad drawings, but also did like the screens with the actual like TV screens, showing how the iPad drawings are done, because on those apps you can sort of record the whole do a time lapse video of how the whole process is done, which I think for a lot of people who's never used iPad to draw, it's a really interesting process to see an artist like Hockney, how he manages to create his whole process of drawing. I think all of that, it's it's just been a very fascinating thing to see, with all these range of works of drawings and paintings and iPad drawings put together. It makes more sense for people to appreciate the sort of craftsmanship or mark making of the works, that it's not just like a doodle on iPad.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think what's distinctive about the mark making on an iPad is that you can't really control the pressure as your finger glides on this sleek glass surface.
Actually, you can, but to a certain extent, there's now like pressure points where you can even set up like settings like how hard do you press.
I guess back when he was starting these drawings, like around the 2010s. You couldn't do that. I mean, the way you emphasize a point is you change the intensity or transparency of the color, or you rub a certain area of the composition more densely.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that creates something quite contrived about these images, and in a way alienating. And in a way, I feel that his works from the late 1960s and 70s, is like California beach scenes, they also have something quite alienating. Even the people he paints, many of them, not all of them, particularly in the late 60s, they feel like these Cubist-inspired objects. I mean, they remind me of Seurat also, perhaps. I mean, Seurat is someone who really, I think, maintains like the objecthood of the people he depicts, because he follows like the stringent logic of painting in pure dots of color, and not distinguishing between whether it's background or the facial features of and I think
as you mean, like, as in he's sort of describing and observing the people like as if it's an object.
I think so, very much so. I think there's no real distinction between whether he's painting a palm tree, a person lying next to the pool, or the water, or the house on the back.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, out of all of Hockney's work, some of my favorites are also from the sort of late 60s to like at the edge of 1970, before he went all the way towards naturalism with a sort of big double portraits of very naturalistic detailed paintings, but kind of the narrow period before that where he did sort of the period where he did the big splash at the Tate. I think those are some of my favorite painting that he did in Los Angeles. I think that's the first time he's been to LA, and
believe it. I mean, I didn't.
The first
must
time.
have been like 67 or so, 66.
Yeah, I mean, he started painting these works for sort of from like 64 or 5-ish.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. I mean, coming back to your point about the way that it looks a little bit digital, that I think one thing that we saw in the exhibition as well is that the way that he's done the big splash, the splash of water that he's done, the intricate, I mean, in the exhibition notes, he was saying that how he spent like 2 weeks just to paint this one single splash of water that happened in like 1 second or less, but at the same time, like with that sort of intricacy, but the lines, it is in a way so digital. It's very much like a digital mark making that you would see now in computers.
It kind of actually reminds you of the computer games maybe of the late 1990s and early 2000s, where you would, I'm thinking of like as a kid, I obviously, my first crush ever in life was obviously in Lara Croft and this terrific computer game. And I remember in, I forgot which one, but there was this, one part of the game took place in Venice, and I remember, the water was just like this pixelated cacophony of blue and white, particularly if you drive in a boat, and it was kind of like little cubes mixing together and buzzing together, and in a way that's what you also see in the splash, really.
Exactly, that's actually the point I was going for, that his paintings around that time really reminds me of video games, not even in the 90s, more like now, because how good and detailed it is. I mean, the 90s, I feel like it's still a bit, the pixel is a bit, but like, it's like The Sims, like the most common simulation game, like Sims 4 or something. Like there's this comment in I think there's some critics comment on Hockney being that his works of Los Angeles at the time is very kind of, there's no social context to it. It's not a real Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's kind of this idealized, very beautiful Eden-like place that is so clean and so there is none of the ugly things that's happening in there.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's very video game-like.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think that also makes sense with the idea of like this objecthoodness in his work, particularly from that time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the landscape of a video game, really.
Yeah, and particularly about water. So water is also an element that Hockney is particularly interested in, right? So he's done a lot of paintings of people in shower, and he also, obviously, the swimming pool is his most famous thing. And his description of water is that it's something that is really difficult to represent. It's especially because it can be anything. It can reflect. It can be any color, any form, and it's kind of, there's a nothingness to it. Like, how do you represent something like that?
There's a nothingness to it, but yet it changes space.
Yes,
and how
exactly.
We perceive it. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's really difficult to depict water in video games. I mean, I've had one small experience in trying to design a water surface in a video game, and it's so hard. It's like it's also like especially in like 2-dimensional games, that you have to sort of design one tile to sort of go across the whole water, whole lake or whole river, and it's supposedly to represent the sort of flickeringness or like the depth or like the sense of what water looks like.
Yeah, and how it changes depending on how shallow.
Yes, and it needs to be abstracted in the sense that it can be replicated like a tile, right? It all matches together. Yeah. And it is super difficult to make an abstract version of what water looks like. And I think that's perhaps also what fascinates Hockney. And what's interesting is that, he was doing all of this in the late 60s, and none of the computer graphics at the time is anything like what he was doing at the time. I mean, the computer graphics of the 60s were like literally like 32-bit like pixel or something.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
But what he was doing, I think, somehow predicts what computer graphics and graphic art is going to look like in the 21st century. I think that's a really, I don't know if whether it's that computer has caught up with him in that sense, but it's more like he's kind of lucky enough hit that spot.
Well, I think in a way it's both. I mean, I think his aesthetic choices of the late 1960s kind of, were kind of predicted the aesthetics of computer games and the limitations or the differences between computer graphics and the graphics, the real world, as it were. But I think the fact that he harnesses technologies, I mean, in the 1980s he would, work with, photocopiers and faxes to do artworks that, are probably not amongst his best. Artworks that obviously also present conservational challenges just because the ink from printing and faxing is not really good enough to withstand the test of time. But now also the iPad drawings, I think there's a strong continuity between them. I think what Hockney, to me, I think what he's probably most interested in is expanding the visual possibilities of painting. I don't think he's a portraitist. I don't think his works are super political. I don't think they touch me at the depths of my soul, but I think they're really quite innovative and in terms of what you can achieve sticking to a rather conservative subject matter. And of course they also make me feel good. That's quite obvious, but
I think imagine if what he did back in the 60s about Los Angeles was more political things. I think in a way that would actually be less relatable to us now, because you will need a lot of context to understand, a rather political, realistic portrayal of LA. And yet what he's done, I think it's really inspired me to think about what a very important artist of the era is. These artists the kind of prophecies of, or just they're lucky enough to hit that pot. And the work that they do kind of makes sense later on, that they're kind of predicting aesthetics or predicting a visual style that is going to come.
I don't know. I mean, I think everyone does their own thing, of course. I mean, if you think of, someone who's quite different to Hockney in terms of like timelessness of the portrayals, someone I often think about is Andy Warhol, and that, most of his imagery, it's very much situated in a cultural context. I mean, who knows if the Coca-Cola company will be around forever? How will we think of, his drawings of Coca-Cola bottles from the 60s? How about Elizabeth Taylor?
Yeah,
Marilyn
I do think
Monroe,
Presley. They are less relatable now, I think.
Yeah, but how do we deal with that? And in a way, a strong precedent to that is also, the old master tradition where, if we look at a painting by Leonardo da Vinci and it's the Mona Lisa, we don't really think in terms of, the Florentine patrons who would have commissioned that painting. We kind of transcend beyond that. And so I think that's how the reception
but exactly,
of
like
changed.
What Leonardo was good at was the way he painted. It wasn't who he painted.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Warhol is different there because maybe it's not who he painted, but maybe also not the way he painted, but maybe, the sheer cultural context of doing what he did at the time he did it.
Yeah. I mean, sure, this is a very big topic.
Yeah.
Coming back to Hockney and his late 60s works. So what was interesting at that point is that he really wasn't, although like obviously the digital stuff come later on, but at that point he really wasn't really thinking about those things. I mean, what he was doing, it was 64, 66, 67, so it's at the time where minimalism and a lot of these color-filled works and the sort of
well, Apex was over then.
Yeah,
already.
exactly. Abstract expression is a bit over then. So so more of these color-filled and minimalist artists are coming out, and they are the dominant force in America. And so, I mean, obviously his works, there are certain reactions to the sort of abstractions in America. So with these sort of very clean-cut geometric shapes that he's used to depict the figures or the buildings or the swimming pools or the structures of the painting, those are sort of taken from minimalism, and yet he's using that to paint, to do something that is figurative. And also with swimming pool, there's later ones in the 70s where he's done more like kind of a Frankenteller way of painting the swimming pool, sort of diluting the acrylics and like absorbing them into canvas, and sort of creating a very watery, there's a sense of depth to that water. And all of these methods, he is sort of incorporating them into his figurative paintings, and somehow, and like the late 60s works, by thinking that way, like using abstracted geometric shapes to depict something that is very realistic, and that ended up to look rather realistic, right? And that whole process of thinking is kind of also very much like the way you would do graphic drawings on computers these days.
Yeah.
And
I guess you'd start out with square circles and certain shapes. And
yeah, so particularly with like two-dimensional drawings with like vector images, and you have to start with like lines and squares and things like that. The logic is rather similar.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's just quite fascinating how art history works.
Yeah.
How the sort of development of images works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. What do you... Yeah, I mean, what can artists do today with technology and maybe also going forward? I mean, it leaves you wondering, what would David Hockney do today if he were our generation?
Gosh, I mean, if we knew that, we'll be artists. No. Yeah. No, I mean, what else did you like from the show, or was there anything else that you particularly liked in Hockney's works?
Gosh, good question.
I mean, I remember back in, I think, 2014 or 15 when Tate did 2017 when Tate did the big show. It was a lot of emphasis on the way he's explored perspectives and the use of photographs.
I think that was very prominent.
Yes, and then the other thing was drawings was also quite prominent in that show.
Yeah, but I think probably perspective, and I think that, that was something that was less really focused on in this show, but I suppose his photography collages, his work from the 1980s, also his landscapes to a certain extent, how they skew a traditional sense of perspective, how they're somewhat Cubist inspired.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole chapter on Picasso and Hockney in the catalogue.
I think obviously the connecting part is that he was playing around with photography, and maybe can you instill a sense of movement and atmosphere, something that you can't really capture that much with a single image because it's a singular moment in time. How can you try to capture time in painting?
Yeah, I mean, I was really captivated by those like collages of Polaroids that he's done, particularly of the Zen garden in Japan. I mean, it really captures how he sort of walks along.
No, I like them too. I mean, I was once also asked, a client asked me whether he should buy one. The only problem I think with some of his works that have been in the digital sphere is that they just don't age well. I mean, many of those Polaroids, you see like the red and yellow hues really coming through quite strongly because they've just been some of the colors have receded with time. So it's in a way really also a bit unfortunate. I mean, it's not meant to stick around forever.
But yeah, I mean, just cracks on painting. Sometimes it gives you a bit of a flair.
But I mean, I think in that case, there's nothing you can do about it really, unless you put it in a black room and.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. So not buying the Polaroids.
No, not buying the Polaroids.
No, but yeah, I think the other thing that was rather amazing in the LV Foundation show is those really big tree paintings.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting how he's done it with like this, I don't know how many panels is that, like 30, no, probably more, like 50 panels or something like that. And every single one of them is quite unique, that they kind of don't match perfectly with each other. Yeah. So the tree, it's just like the Polaroids that he's done.
In a way it is, yeah.
It's kind of, every panel is a little bit mismatched. It's like, I don't know, 50 different paintings or 50 different photographs
And what does he
collaged
achieve
together.
in that, do you think? Is it that it creates a certain sense of the movement, or is it that it
I think you
captures
can.
more space in an image? What do you...
Yeah, I think it's exactly what he's trying to do with the Polaroid in a sense.
Yeah.
You get the sense that it's a slightly different perspective in a
Yeah.
way. Or I don't know, maybe there's also like I think it's the time and the movement.
Yeah.
And that's all captured in one image. What did you think about those paintings?
Well, I thought they were really quite overwhelming. Were the largest ones done in Normandy or California or Yorkshire?
It does look more like the UK, I think. I mean, these are like branches that looks like winter, so
Yeah, well, I
don't
mean,
think-
France isn't too far, Normandy, I should say. So.
yeah.
No, I agree. I hadn't thought of the multiple panel works in that way. I mean, I thought it was more like a physical necessity. If you do a really big work, like, you know, maybe it's reasonable to have multiple
But they're
smaller
like-
panels.
Are they like
rather-
framed, each framed? Like, I can't remember actually.
I don't think so.
No.
Or maybe only
Maybe.
very minimally, but not even a trace frame.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, obviously not to. Yeah.
But that's interesting. And
Yeah. And
do you think he should be having another show?
where? When?
Anywhere. I mean, I think there's a genuine question. I mean, Hockney, he's already had enough publicity and fame, and does the world need another Hockney show?
But people like it. It's like, does the world need another Van Gogh show? People like it.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I think it's a genuine...
It makes
question.
everyone happy.
It makes everyone happy, but maybe it's not what we are supposed to do working in this sector. I mean, art is not about making people happy, I think.
It's not.
No.
I thought that's what I'm trying to do.
No.
Enrich people's lives with art.
I guess.
Okay, we just checked the catalogue. They are framed, each of the panels. With a tiny tray frame, I think, right?
Very minimal, yeah.
Very minimal, but it's
But it
it's kind of
disrupts
making the
that image,
point,
yeah.
right? Making the point that they are sort of, I don't know, collages in a sense.
But are all of them framed? I mean,
Yeah, it looks like it.
yeah, I suppose you're right.
Yeah. Oh, there's not that many panels, I have to say. I think the one we saw at the show is a really big one.
Yeah, I
It
think
has
that
a
was
lot
his
of
largest one,
yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot of panels on that one.
Yeah, interesting.
Oh yes, the other thing we really liked was the charcoal drawings he did. The Arrival of Spring from 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really
I mean, it brought the
Sensual.
point home that, first of all, he is a terrific draughtsman. I mean, many of his works look somewhat childlike occasionally. I mean, also his I mean, I don't think he's a good portraitist. I mean, but I also don't think that that's what his work is about. I don't think he tries to...
Why do you think that he's not a good portraitist?
Well, I don't think he is successful at bringing the people he depicts closer. It's not like I'm looking into their soul in the way that I might want to claim about other artists, perhaps Lucian Freud or I don't know what. I think there's often something quite banal. I mean, in his very late drawings from 2016, he had this RA show that year, I believe, something very clumsy about them. I mean, the proportions are skewed and the faces are just a bit clumsy. I think he's not that interested in people. I think he's
But he's
far
been
more-
drawing a lot of portraits.
Well, but still, I mean, either that or maybe... but I'd say he's more interested in...
Yeah, I guess there is a sense that it's
in painting. I mean, he's more interested in playing around with the possibilities within painting, skewing around with perspective, skewing around with different visual languages, rather than touching you. I mean, many of his paintings are joyous just by the sheer cacophony of colors he employs, but I don't think I really don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with a lot of drawings, it's a little bit cartoon-like, some of the works.
Yeah,
I think they're quite fun, like quite characteristic. But
maybe they're quite fun and characteristic. Yeah.
yeah, but I guess maybe yeah, there isn't that like really serious.
I mean, in a
sense
way, even though he is a terrific draughtsman, as you can see in like his drawings, his charcoal drawings of the landscapes, as you can see in many of his works, he's truly a superb draughtsman.
Yeah.
But yet there's this kind of maybe humorous side. Maybe he doesn't want to come across with a serious demeanor. I mean, maybe there's a certain play he likes to convey as well, and a certain innocence. And maybe if you paint people too candidly, you lose that. I mean, it's perhaps easier then to paint landscapes and your stupid dogs.
Stupid dogs.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like it doesn't seem like important works. His dogs. I mean, like come on. Yeah, sure, I like a dachshund. And
everyone likes dogs paintings.
True, but they're not important works.
It's okay to not do important works.
Yeah.
No, coming back to the charcoal drawings of the landscapes, and these are in Yorkshire, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these are sort of. I think every row there's 5 rows, and 25 drawings in total. So there's 5 different scenes. So every row is kind of the exact same scene, kind of like Monet's water lilies, or no, more like Monet's haystacks. So it's kind of drawing the exact same view, but but in different seasons at different times. And that's all done not in oil paint, but in charcoal, which I think it's very much more difficult to depict the differences of the very intricate differences of different times and seasons.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, the charcoal drawings actually had me think of this series of drawings done by Gilbert and George in the early 1970s. It's these charcoal drawings of them ruminating, walking through London's parks, talking about romantic subject matter, the beauty of nature and what have you. And there's something quite innocent, almost Hockney-like to these works, because they're not really theory-laden. I thought that was an interesting connection. I mean, I suppose really Gilbert and George and Hockney also came to the fore artistically around the same time. But maybe this is a somewhat tendentious and too broad connection to draw. After all, the charcoal works at the Louis Vuitton Foundation, they were done not that long ago, probably in the last 20 years for sure.
Yeah, I think
2010s maybe?
2013.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I still was kind of struck by them and the connection to Gilbert and George, because there's in both works there's a certain kind of innocence. And, obviously Gilbert and George are very anti-elitist. They don't like the idea that you have to kind of read theory books, or that there's like some progressive agenda on what art should be, and that, now we have to all paint flat, and I don't know what. There's a certain innocence and connection to life. And I think probably Hockney, while on the one hand he is very innovative as a painter and changes the possibilities of figurative painting, there's also the sheer innocence that you can bloody well enjoy one of his paintings without knowing an awful lot. I think and that's also part of the success of his work. There's something very joyous about his landscapes in particular.
Yes, for sure.
These are our brief thoughts. I mean, there's obviously a lot to discuss and many works in the show. I mean, you also had a room, I believe, with his works where he would reference other artists.
Oh, yes.
Which I personally found it was a more of a challenging room. I don't think it was a room that was necessary for the show. I think to me that would have been something you could have just cut out with a scalpel.
But I did like the one work that's to do with Hogarth. I thought that
they're
was quite
charming
good.
works individually, but are they truly necessary? I mean, it was already a quite long show, but be that as it may, we picked the ones we felt a connection to somewhat. And I look forward to talking again. I think we still have to debate. I really want to talk about
Robert Mata.
Roberto Mata.
Robert Mata.
No, it's
Roberto Mata.
he's from Chile.
Okay.
Be that as it may, we'll have to wait for another occasion.
Okay. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye bye.